What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 60 of the Flea Flicker NFL show. I'm your host, Umar, and I am once again joined by my great co-host, Omar Rogers. What's up, Omar?
What's up, Arib? We not really too much to talk about today. Go over a little bit of news, then go over still the draft is coming up. I think we're about like 2 months roughly from the draft, maybe a little bit under now since we just entered the month of March. We're going to cover our underrated prospects. We're going to give our top 5 prospects that are under the radar, like not your obvious first round pick. Like we're not like when we made our mock draft, there were obvious first round picks, I could say, for like the first 20 picks. But then after 20, I think the 20 picks that we got were pretty much locked in top 20. After that, players that are definitely like under the radar, even like players that are sleepers, even past day 1, even day 2, players that you just stand out. That's just a standout prospect for you that you could definitely see translate to the next level with the right direction. I know Reeb last year with the underrated prospects had Donovan Peoples-Jones, a guy that was highly touted prospect out of high school. Did not really translate as well in college. He
Mostly because his quarterback sucked.
But exactly, Shea Patterson sucked though. So I mean, I don't blame that. But Reeb called that out as a sleeper, and today look at him now. He's been killing it with the Cleveland Browns. I believe he's probably wide receiver 3 with Odell being out, and he looked good. Yeah. And I mean, and he was a 6th round pick. I think that's.
I don't know how he fell to 6th, bro. I know a couple people had him like as a top 10 player.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. And he was the number 1 wide receiver out of high school. So that just shows you the sleepers that are definitely out there. So we're probably going to go into deep lengths with these underrated prospects, and we may give some that are probably going to go day 2, but we may give some that'll go deep into day 3. And we may even list more than 5. We're just going to keep it at 5 at the moment because there's a lot of interesting and intriguing prospects here, Reeb, that are underrated. But first, let's get into the news, Reeb.
Yeah, and we could start off with definitely the biggest piece of news. Former 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, J.J. Watt, has signed with the Arizona Cardinals. A very surprising deal, seeing as the Cardinals were not a team that were rumored with J.J. Watt whatsoever. It was mostly Cleveland, Green Bay, and Buffalo being the 3 teams that were mainly in the J.J. Watt sweepstakes. But turns out that just wasn't true. Arizona was there, and they gave him a 2-year deal worth $31 million. That includes $23 million guaranteed. So J.J. Watt is getting paid maybe more than what he's worth right now as a 30-something-year-old player. But I think the first thing that came up to my mind when I heard this deal happening, I was like, okay, J.J. Watt plus now you get Chandler Jones coming back off his bicep injury. And I think you can probably give Chandler Jones the benefit of the doubt, even though he's coming off injury, for the fact that he's just a very damn good player. He has 97 sacks since 2012, and everyone's seen this stat being thrown around everywhere. And J.J. Watt is second since 2012 with 95 sacks, I believe it is. I'd like to see where Von Miller and those type of players are ranked on that list as well. But we got J.J. Watt signing here, and honestly, J.J. Watt, I believe, was the most double-team player in 2020. So that's just going to open it up for both those players. Those 2 players are going to, make sure that they're going to face less double teams probably individually than they would face elsewhere. And also, I don't know if you knew this, Amal, but Arizona was actually 3rd, I think, or 4th in the league in sacks. They had 48 sacks on the season. And their leading sacker of the year was actually Haason Reddick, who is going to hit free agency, and his future with the Cardinals is currently up in the air. But even if you don't bring him back, I can definitely say that J.J. Watt at this point of his career is a better player than Haason Reddick will probably ever be in his career, period. So I don't think you're going to really miss much there with Haason Reddick hitting free agency. And even if you bring Haason Reddick back, you're bringing someone who had a great end of the season with Arizona, and you're just boosting your defense. And your defense, I wouldn't necessarily say your defense was like the flaw of the team if you're Arizona, because they started off like 6-2, 6-3. Everyone thought they were for sure playoff locks. And then they ended up going, I think, 2-5 to end the season. And They missed out on the playoffs. And I think the offense is probably the bigger problem there, but hey, shoring up your defense by adding a 3-time defensive player of the year, Vance Joseph, the defensive coordinator of the Arizona Cardinals, is probably not too bad about that. And also another thing that I haven't really seen many people talk about, but JJ Watt is a leader. And if you want to bring sort of a playoff atmosphere, I know they haven't won a lot of games down there in Houston, but the Houston Texans have made a lot of playoff games, and you're getting a winning mentality in JJ Watt. And we saw him talking about how he was saying to Deshaun Watson and the media, he was calling out teammates for not putting in enough practice time and not putting in enough effort in the gym and whatever it might be. And you saw him, apologizing to Deshaun Watson for wasting one of his seasons. Like JJ Watt, you're getting a great guy, a good leader, a good football player who I think you're definitely overpaying. I think $32 million is a lot for 2 seasons of JJ Watt, especially, nearing the twilight of his career. But at the same time, I think it's worth it, getting in that leadership, getting in a good player who I think you can move him around. I think they have a 3-4 down there in Arizona. So if you want to line him up as an edge player, you can do that. Line him up as a defensive end. He's strong enough to do that, quick enough to still do that. And you can feast on those mismatches. So you're increasing, I guess, the benefit you can get from that. And all I can say is I feel bad for Russell Wilson and Matthew Stafford and those guys that they're going to have to face JJ Watt and whatever his name is. I can't remember. Chandler Jones.
Yeah.
2 times a year.
Yeah. I mean, Chandler Jones is a specimen himself. My opinion, Chandler Jones is probably the most underrated
Agreed.
edge
Not
player.
Even close.
And if not, you could in the NFL. I mean,
underrated defender probably.
Yeah, he's very underrated. Like you listed out of his sack totals in his career. The man's special. His entire family special. They got UFC light heavyweight champion and probably the greatest mixed martial arts athlete of all time, John Jones, as a sibling, and Chandler Jones is a monster. And now they add JJ Watt to that elite defense. And yeah, they do still have holes. Obviously, in the defense, Patrick Peterson's probably going to walk from Arizona. They still have some holes in the safety, in the secondary area. Offensive line is definitely still an issue there. But I think this team is still showing promise. They were a game, I think, out of the playoff picture. And with this type of acquisition, I think they've definitely moved themselves back into the playoff picture. They were obviously always in there. Top 7 team in the NFC is probably going to be harder to get, assuming teams like the Bears would maybe drop off, but the Niners didn't make the playoffs last year. You can probably assume them with full health will probably make the playoffs. And then where does AZ go from there? And then that's where things will get very difficult. And it'll be very interesting to see how this Cardinals team shapes up. I know for sure they're not done yet. They may even still draft another edge here in the first round. I don't think the pressure is obviously now as high, priorities as high to draft an edge with JJ Watt there. JJ Watt's an extremely special player. When it comes to the salary, 2 years, $31 million. Reeb, I think that's definitely on the more higher side of what I would pay for a guy that's, I guess, on the he's more towards its end of his career than the beginning of his career. He's past his prime, and when he was in his prime, he was probably on Aaron Donald's level of dominance in the NFL. I remember when NFL Top 100 had it, he was like number 1 player back-to-back years.
Yeah, 2014.
Similar to Aaron Donald, I think. So I think he's an absolute beast, and if he can continue to keep that, and there were teams that offered more money. Apparently the Browns and the Colts offered more money, but I think regardless, I think JJ Watt just saw the stars aligned and wanted to go to Arizona. Climate's warmer there, so I don't blame him in that aspect. And hey man, I think he believes in Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins. He wanted to reunite with DeAndre Hopkins, and he's now there. And that Cardinals team is now definitely a force to be reckoned with when it comes to the NFC West division.
And their defensive players, I don't know how well of a unit they're going to be, but I think Isaiah Simmons, rookie out of Clemson going into his second year, he can only improve, right? Jordan Hicks, I wouldn't say he's a superstar, but he's definitely probably a star player, very underrated linebacker. Buda Baker, who I think you could make a strong
Defensive
case that he
player.
was defensive player of the year. Byron Murphy. Every time I've watched him play with Arizona, he's always shutting guys down on his side. They're going to lose Patrick Peterson, but I could see them definitely drafting one of these like top 8 corners. I'd say probably the top 5 corners. You can probably have one of them fall into the second round, maybe 2, and you could get a steal there, or even in the first round at pick 16, which is where they're drafting this year. Chandler Jones, JJ Watt. If they decide to bring in Hassan Reddick again, coming off a brilliant end to his 2020 campaign, like go for it. Like you have a lot of good players here, and I think Vance Joseph is going to be able to get the most out of them. So honestly, if I'm the Cardinals, the only excuse for making the playoffs that I have is really on the offensive side of the ball. And not even an excuse. That's where you got to shift the blame, because Kyler Murray was not that good. Cliff Kingsbury was not that good to end the season. Kenyon Drake, who's probably going to hit free agency this year, wasn't that good. Like, honestly, the offensive side of the ball is, I think, where you should place the blame if you're a Cardinals fan. So, yeah, I think I like this this move for the Arizona Cardinals. And like I said before, or this is going to be a great segue, but Russell Wilson is not happy. And we saw Chandler Jones tweeting about this, saying that RW3 is probably not happy. And we can just talk about all the rumors right now, Amal, with Russell Wilson apparently saying he doesn't want to move, he doesn't want out, but he also gave a list of 4 teams that he was willing to get traded to. I believe that included Chicago and Las Vegas. So it definitely sounds like he's wanting to get traded.
Yeah, Dallas and
Denver, maybe, I think it was.
No, it was Chicago, Vegas, Dallas, and New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans. Which New Orleans is not happening, bro. They're negative 60 million in cap space. No shot. But also today, or rather yesterday, according to Diamie at ESPN, the Seahawks are not shopping Russell Wilson, but calls are being made, and they're not hanging up on them. So
apparently calls are going both ways. Apparently
calls are going both ways. I don't know if that's true, but at the same
that's what
time,
she said. That's what she reported. Yeah.
Russell Wilson, there's 2 ways of looking at this, right? One is the crowd that's saying you average like 11 wins a season, like shut up and play. Like you like go to Philly or go to Houston if you really want a bad situation. And then there's another side that's like, obviously he should want out. And I'm sort of in the middle of this, because like, I agree. I think Russell Wilson has had it really good in Seattle, but it also could have been way better, as in like they could have easily won another Super Bowl or more, or at least made a deeper
similar predicament to Aaron Rodgers, man. I'll be honest.
We've said it multiple times. I don't know if we said it on the podcast, but Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson's career trajectory has been almost identical, other than the fact like where they were drafted, like early success. I obviously forget about the whole Brett Favre saga, but like from when they started, early success, made it to the Super Bowl early, won a Super Bowl, great playoff years, MVP caliber seasons that Russell Wilson has never actually won an MVP. And then they got paid, and then their team sort of fell up around them. And we saw Mike McCarthy getting fired. And I don't think Pete Carroll is going to get fired. I think he's going to end up retiring. But Pete Carroll's philosophy has not really meshed with Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson,
defensive mentality. Yeah,
he has a defensive mentality, run the ball. And Russell Wilson is more of a, I want to pass the ball type of guy, because, I mean, no shit, he's a quarterback. Like, he wants to throw the damn ball. And same thing with same thing with Aaron Rodgers, though. It wasn't that particular, like, running the ball saga, but the thing that happened in Green Bay was that they weren't running the ball well enough, and they weren't running it often enough. And it's sort of a flip side, like flipping it upside down here with Seattle, where they're running the ball too much for Russell Wilson. And it makes sense, because they have success when they pass the ball. And I remember one game in 2019, I think it was, or maybe 2018, it was a playoff game against Dallas. And they just kept running the ball for like, they were averaging like 2 yards a carry. They kept running the ball. They were down. And then Russell Wilson started throwing the ball. And guess what? Doug Baldwin was making terrific grabs on the sideline. And you're marching down the field. You're scoring and you're getting back into the game. But it's too late, because you were too hellbent on running the ball. And I know I've been really critical of former offensive coordinator. What is his name?
Brian Schottenheimer.
Yeah. Brian Schottenheimer. I've been critical of him because he keeps running the ball. But I'm starting to wonder how much of that is on Brian Schottenheimer and how much of it is on Pete Carroll taking too much of the responsibility on the offensive side of the ball and trying to implement his game plan. And Russell Wilson was not a perfect player last season. Like, he threw picks. But at the end of the day, it's because he had to throw picks, because his team sucks around him. Like the Seahawks, have failed to draft offensive line multiple times. They had an offensive line problem for like the last 6 years. And like everyone has been projecting an offensive lineman in the first round every single year, but they go out there and draft LJ Collier and Rashad Penny and all these busts of first round picks instead of investing in your quarterback. And we talked about this with Tom Brady and all, where like we think that franchise players and Aaron Rodgers as well, franchise quarterbacks should have a say in how the organization is run when it comes to drafting players and signing free agents and all that. And Russell Wilson clearly has wanted a part in that because he doesn't want to be hit as much as he's getting hit. And it makes sense for him to want to get out. I agree with people who are saying like, suck it up. You average 11 wins, 12 wins a season, like deal with it. But I also understand Russell Wilson's point of mind where he wants to win, and his mentality might be that the best chance to win is through him. And that's not happening in Seattle. And it's just sort of a ideological shift and break between the head coach and the quarterback here. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't think Russell Wilson gets traded, period. Like full stop, no shot he gets traded. But I think it's like $39 million dead cap if he were to get traded. And I understand why Seattle's answering calls because like obviously you're going to answer calls. And I think Seattle's GM is well known for answering calls for anybody, period. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement here, but come 2021, 2020 or 2022, 2023, it might be the beginning of a rift, and maybe we'll see Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think I'm probably on the same page as you. I think this is a sign for what may come in the future. Like you said, 2022, 2023 season. I think that's probably more likely.
The same thing happened with Tom Brady, right? Tom Brady was unhappy there, and
you can tell by the year before.
Exactly. He didn't leave like immediately, but like he ended up leaving.
Yeah, he won a Super Bowl even the year before. So I mean, you can't even say like, but like you could obviously tell entering into the year the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, which was last year, not this past year, but the year before, that things were not right, obviously. And in the offseason, that was very clear. And at the end of the day, that's what happened, and they moved on in that situation. And I think that's similar situations happening here. I think Seahawks could go into a way to fix this, solving this very simply. At the end of the day, Russell Wilson,
offensive lineman.
I mean, that's not. They don't even need a draft because they don't have a first round pick, right? They can, but if they got a guy like Corey Linsley is on the market, probably
from Green Bay,
top. Yep, and it's even stupid that Green Bay let him go. I mean, that's another different topic. But he's on the market, probably top 5 guard in NFL, and he's on there. Trent Williams is on the market. Guys like that, I think if Seattle just shows the sign that they're willing to do whatever it takes to help this man out, a man that's done so much for the franchise, both on the field and off the field, won Walter Payton Man of the Year, well-deserved from that award. And I think that's the type of man that Russell Wilson is. He wants help. You could see him when he was with Roger Goodell watching the Super Bowl, that he was dying to be on the field that day. I mean, and he wants the Seahawks to have that opportunity. And unfortunately, even though defensively they didn't have the best start, but they kept on producing, and they were actually a pretty decent defense to end the year off. And then on offense, they had the weapons. DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I guarantee you, out of these teams mentioned, none of them, other than the Cowboys are unrealistic. They don't have anywhere near as good weapons as DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I can promise you that. But he's listing out those teams because, Reeve, the offensive line is such a big problem here in Seattle. And I think if the GM just goes at it the right way and goes after what Russell Wilson wants, and that's getting an offensive lineman, I think that'll show the value. But I think that has to go through Pete Carroll. I think Pete Carroll, makes the decision there. And I think it needs to start with him. I think he needs to change his mindset, give more priority towards the quarterback. Because like we said before, he's a defensive-minded coach. And I think that's very clear because Seattle's always had an elite defense for many years. And I think that's always where his mind is going to be. And that's fair, but I think that's why he doesn't prioritize giving up those first round picks for a guy like Jamal Adams. But then at the end of the day, it is worth it for him because he gets better defense. And I think now they're suffering from it because they can't even draft. They can't draft a player because Pete Carroll has been very hell bent on having an elite defense. So, yeah,
There's
this
nothing
could
wrong
be.
with that. That's how they built their super team back
Exactly.
in
Yeah.
2013,
Exactly. So
2014.
it's not even a big deal. And Russell Wilson was really young. He was nowhere near as good as what he is today. Nowhere near. I mean, it's very even you agree with that. He's not. He was not even close to being at the same level. He's honestly, you can even say he's probably where Kyler Murray is right now. I think that's probably where Russell Wilson was when he went to his back-to-back Super Bowls. Yeah, I think he was still a guy that made mistakes, stupid mistakes. Yeah, he threw a pick to end the Super Bowl, but I think that's like. He was what, like 24, 25?
He looked like a veteran even then.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, exactly. But that's what I'm saying.
It was weird. Like he's just like he has this weird. Like he's definitely a Hall of Fame caliber player in my opinion because he came into the league and he had that like poise and that like maturity that like most players don't have.
Yeah, and then when it comes to trade value, I think the only team
5 first-round picks.
I think the only team that could honestly give anything. I think the Raiders can't. I think the Raiders are fully committed to Derek Carr, so I think that rules out. And he's only committed to these 4 teams, by the way. I don't think he's flexible to any other.
Wait,
trades.
quick question, Amal. Do you think the OKC Thunder could trade for Russell Wilson? They definitely got enough picks, right? They've got like 25 or something like that. Like they could definitely. I think you could probably
OKC
20 first-round picks.
Well, OKC is connected to the Seattle Supersonics. It's the same franchise there. Exactly. So that maybe that could happen. But anyways, I think like going through these teams, the Cowboys, the only way that makes sense is if they trade Dak, but that's stupid because then it's a sign and tag and trade type of deal. That's probably not going to happen. Saints definitely won't happen. I mean, unless like God just magically disappears the cap money and the NFL just like forgets about it, then maybe the Saints make sense. I think the Bears are the only team that does make sense, and for them, they'd have to give up like 3 firsts, 3 seconds, and maybe like Roquan Smith or Khalil Mack. And I think that's probably what it would take. And then even then, I'm pretty sure the Bears would probably do that.
I would do that in a second.
And I don't know the Bears. Yeah, and Seattle, even that is pretty fair compensation. But at the end of the day, that goes to the fact of, do you want to move on from this guy? And yeah, it's just that fact. And I think Seattle should stay firm here. If they don't stay firm here, it wouldn't shock me, because if the dude did list out 4 teams, you don't just list out 4 teams. Yeah, he shouldn't have even done that. The agent should not have told Schefter that to begin with. But he did list out 4 teams, and it wouldn't shock me if he got traded. But I'm with you. I definitely do not expect it.
Yeah. It's just a really weird situation. And like we said, like it mirrors Aaron Rodgers' situation where like the quarterback got paid, took up a big portion of the cap space. Suddenly the team sucks. And the only good thing about the team, like other than, I mean, the team is like honestly a 6-10 talent, but they have star quarterbacks that carry them. And in Green Bay, the change was that they got a new coach. And in Seattle, that might be the change.
Green Bay's 0-16 without Aaron Rodgers. They're worse than the Jets. They're worse than the Bengals.
Not now, but back in the day.
I'm saying, okay, yeah. I'm just saying, like, in general, like, the Packers are still, like, they're great defense. Offense is also pretty good. But without Aaron Rodgers, that team is dead as well.
The thing is, they also have good drafting.
They're as dead as what the Niners were last year. They'd be as dead. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, they've had good drafting as well the last few seasons. They've gotten good players, and Seattle hasn't done that, and that's the problem. Like, it's just like, yeah, I mean, DK is a good player, but like, other than DK Metcalf, who have Seattle drafted like early?
Chris Carson's about to walk. Rashad Penny's about to walk.
LJ Collier is a bust. Like, I don't even know what they're like. Every single first round pick for the last like 5 years that I've watched Seattle draft has just been like, what the hell are you doing?
The only draft they got right was 2012 with Wilson and Lockett, and then
2010, 2011, 2012, and like 2013.
Yeah, I'm saying after the Wilson era, I think from the Wilson draft till today, they've only got 2012 and 2020, and in 2019 they got Metcalf and they got Wilson and Lockett. Those are the only 3 players I think that can. That are even
Doug
notable.
Baldwin was an undrafted player.
Yeah, and he was undrafted. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. They can't draft a Reed. That's the problem. I only named 3 players that I actually remember. They obviously have players like, I mean,
Like,
but
they
I'm
have
just
Jack
saying,
Griffins.
yeah, but but the thing that's 3 players in 8 years, and that's a problem, obviously. And the remaining guys like Quinton Dunbar, like, I mean, it's just like, I think they have to step it up this year when it comes to the draft, and they don't have a first round pick. They got Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams is an elite safety, so I mean it's whatever.
Oh, that's worth it for sure.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna bounce back.
Yeah, exactly. But I think. You may have that situation. I mean, it's just crazy, Arib, what's going on.
It's weird, bro.
It's just a crazy time.
Give me 1 second. I want to look up how many first round picks Seattle, or how many picks Seattle has, period. They have 4 picks in this upcoming draft. So not the best if you want to draft impact players. Bro, what the hell is going on? Bro, what?
They probably have to make some trades, right? Probably to like get back into definitely some crazy times, man. I'm interested to see what Seattle can do though. If they move on from Wilson, I think that's going to be
massive.
That's going to
biggest
be
trade
massive.
we've ever seen.
And I think, like I said, if it can only be the Bears, I'll be honest. I think, and reports have been saying that it's only the Bears are the only team that's possible.
Shocker.
And I mean, that's what we said entering into the season. The only team that really needs a quarterback is the Chicago Bears, more than any other team, because I mean that entire franchise has not had a good quarterback in the past 100 years. So I think
is Russell Wilson already the best quarterback in Bears history? That's the question we should be asking.
He could literally it'd be so simple. He could fly there right now, and
if he's walking through the city of Chicago, he's the best.
Exactly. Yeah, he can literally be in the stadium. He doesn't even need to play for the team, and he could be the best player in Bears history. It's that sad. But yeah, anyways, we can move on. We spent a lot of time on that. Just wanted to give a quick shout out. Jason Kelsey, he proved me wrong. I thought he was for sure going to retire. He agreed on a new deal, $9 million guaranteed, signing him potentially up to $12 million. I think it'll be towards the 12 because Jason Kelsey's an elite center, probably my favorite Eagles player. Great speech when the Eagles won the Super Bowl. That Super Bowl parade speech that he had. Great outfit as well, I can say. But regardless, and also his brother is also an elite tight end, probably the best in football. And Jason Kelsey, at the time, was probably the best center in football as well. So congratulations to Jason Kelsey. Wants to keep it one more year. And hopefully this Eagles team can make the playoffs with him for one last ride. And we can and then we can probably cap it off with Justin Simmons. He got franchise tagged.
First for the Broncos.
First player to get franchise tagged. I think he's probably going to get signed though. I think probably in like June or July, I expect him to get signed. I think the Broncos would be like crazy to actually tag him and make him play through the franchise tag. But yeah, now, and also wait, this is also big news, I guess. Big Ben restructured his contract and it will keep him in Pittsburgh. Reeb and I talked about this earlier today off the pod, and we were just saying it doesn't really make sense for the Steelers to immediately move on from Big Ben because, I mean, there's not that many quarterbacks at the end of the day that are better than Big Ben. Yeah, I mean,
not many rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah. I mean, can you say Big Ben's like the worst quarterback in that division? It's close between you could say even Burrow, because Burrow is just coming off the ACL injury, Mayfield, and then Big Ben.
Lamar as well.
And then Lamar is there as well. But I think at the end of the day, it's there's Big Ben, Mason Rudolph, and Dwayne Haskins. You have to go with Big Ben for one more year. He restructured the contract. I think it's reasonable. So yeah.
I've kind of changed my tune on it a little bit. Like I understand it. Like I'm still. I still think the best thing for them to move on is to move on, but I also understand because
I
I
think
mean you're in
this
a win
draft
now mode, right? And like I don't think
exactly.
they're gonna get a quarterback that's gonna help them suddenly. Like let's look at all the rookie quarterbacks real quickly. Like
Mac Jones is the only one.
yeah, I mean even look at last year. Like Herbert had his ups, definitely had his downs. Burrow, same thing. Like he looked poised, still had his downs. Like can you win Super Bowls with those guys? No, not in the
Not
rookie.
right now. Not right now. Exactly. Yeah, you
Exactly.
can't. None of those. No rookies are
Like
getting to the
I
Super
don't
Bowl
think you can
this year.
take you. I don't think you can win a Super Bowl with Big Ben. But I think out of those guys, like including this year's rookie class, and there's no way in hell they get anyone other than like Mac Jones. But
I think.
unless
Yeah,
they trade up, and like I just don't think they can win a Super Bowl with any of those guys over Big Ben this year. So it
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. I think for a future pick, I think Mac Jones makes sense if they drafted him this year, traded up, and then make him develop 1 year, and then next year he played, and then that would make sense. But yeah, the right move for the Steelers. I think for now, for me. And now we can move on to
Mhm.
our
Let's
prospects
go.
here, most underrated prospects of the 2021 NFL draft.
And for me, there's like about probably 50 to I don't know 40 to 60ish guys that I think are worth those late first rounders to second round picks where you can be like, okay, like that makes sense. Like they have the talent to be there. And I think those are the guys that I want to highlight today. And we're each going to have 5 players on the offensive side of the ball and 5 players on the defensive side of the ball, I believe. And we can start alternating. I'm going to start off with this is in no order, but my number one player who I think is underrated is Omar Rogers, the wide receiver out of Clemson. And he's 5'10", I believe, 205 pounds, 210 pounds. This guy, I heard someone say he looks like a running back, and like I can't unsee that now. He really does look like he has that running back build. And the thing about the I think that's interesting about Omar Rogers is that his dad was a wide receiver coach, and he still is a wide receiver coach, I believe. And he's coached a lot of upper echelon talent in the league. Lots of good slot wide receivers. And Amari Rogers was a slot wide receiver for Clemson. And he had his true breakout this season after obviously T. Higgins and those guys left to the draft. And Amari Rogers really, if he was 6'2", like you could make a strong case for him being like a top 3 wide receiver taken in this year's draft class. And it's just the fact that he's smaller. Like he has good hands. He has good yards after catch. He's elusive. He has underrated deep speed. He has great ability to make jump balls, especially for someone who's smaller. Like his only flaw is that he's small and that he plays the slot predominantly. Otherwise, like if you wanted to invest like a day 2 pick in Amari Rogers, you're getting a guy who's going to be an impact player. I mean, this guy tore his ACL and he recovered in 5 months. 5 months, and then he came back and started playing, and he still sucked when he played. But still, like you got to give him credit for coming back from that injury. And honestly, what it comes down to for me, like he has pretty good route running ability. This guy went into the not pro day, Senior Bowl, and toasted all these corners. And you expect him to do that. He has the talent to do everything you want him to do. And I think he's an impact player. And like I said, like if he was even 2 inches taller, 3 inches taller, and lined up more outside, he would be a baller. And I think he's going to fall in the molds of former Clemson slot wide receivers, especially like the guy in Las Vegas currently. What is his name? I can't remember names. I'm bad with names, but like he's going to be a good slot wide receiver in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, so for me, my first sleeper here, I'm gonna also go in the wide receiver route here. I'm gonna go Diamie Brown, wide receiver out of North
I
Carolina.
have him as well.
Yeah, he's 6'1", 195 pounds. He was getting like I think 20 yards per reception, and he had over 1,000 yards in both of his seasons at UNC. And he just looks good, man. Great hands, physical.
I disagree with that. I
I
disagree with
think
his hands being great.
no, I think he has strong hands at the catch point. I think he
Yeah,
does
I think you
drop the
can say
ball.
that, but he definitely has a
I
drop
think no,
problem.
I think the issue with him is dropping. I think he does drop passes. I take that back. I don't know why I said great hands. I said great hands at
I
the
think
catch point.
strong hands, as in like he can make jump balls.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Physical. Yeah, I think that's his strength for sure. Deep balls, I like him there as well. yeah, I think his acceleration for the deep ball passes, I think that's where he's good at. I think for me, yeah, I like his competitive toughness too. I think that's obviously an important trait to have. I think for me, the only weakness, like you said, is actually the hands. I think in general,
Agreed.
I think I take it back. I think the hands are definitely a problem when it comes to Diamie Brown, and I think uh, release. I think off the release, he has a problem, and then route tree. But route tree is something that I guess like guys like DK Metcalf had those
Mhm.
problems too. So I think that's an issue, I guess, of being a limited route runner. But I mean, for a guy that's a sleeper, I think this dude's like he has his big play ability is just tremendous. And
Yeah.
I don't know. He's probably what I mean, he's probably going to be what
I think he's a day two pick
day
for
two
sure.
pick.
Lock day two pick
Yeah,
for
I think
me.
he's a lock day two pick. He's probably going to be what like mid second to late to early third. I think that's probably around his
Hmm.
range. Um, yeah, I have him as a top 10 wide receiver in this class, and yeah, I'm high on Diamie Brown, and there are receivers that are obviously better than him, but I see this guy as a high potential guy. I could definitely see a team like the Kansas City Chiefs going after him, especially with Sammy Watkins, a speedster guy like that. But I don't think this guy is a speedster by any means either, Reed, but I think it's
I
just the
agree,
fact
but
that
he has good deep speed. Amal.
but
He got
that deep
separation
speed. That's what
downfield.
that's my thing. Yeah, exactly. I think that's my big positive for him.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think the Kansas City Chiefs make a lot of sense. The Indianapolis Colts make a lot of sense. There's just a lot of teams that makes a lot of sense for a day two pick. I think Diamie Brown is definitely a guy. Amari Rogers was also on my list as well when you listed out Amari Rogers out of Clemson. Uh, he's for me like top 15. A receiver that I also see going in day two. Great player out of Clemson. So we've definitely got two great players on for our first offensive sleepers.
Yeah, and just quick notes on Diamie Brown. I like his deep speed. I think his ability, he looks pretty decent with the ball in his hands. I wouldn't say like he's an elite yards after catch player like someone like in this class
Definitely
alone.
not yet, not yet.
Not like probably the best yards after catch guy in this class at the wide receiver position, like Rondell Moore, Kadarius Toney. Those two guys definitely stand out to
Waddle,
me there. Waddle as well, obviously, but
yeah,
Waddle does it a little bit differently. Diamie Brown, he's not there yet, but he's good enough. Like I think this guy, he can be a good wide receiver too, with some wide receiver one upside if he goes to the right spot and he works on his drops. He's a bit smaller. He's only six. He's not only 6 foot, but he's only 185 pounds. And like people are knocking Devontae Smith for only being like 100. I think he's like 180. So take that
definitely.
with what you will. But I think his big knocks for me, his route tree, like UNC's offense was like pretty limited when it came to that. He ran a lot of like, basic routes, slants, goes, that type of stuff. Lots of like RPOs in that offense as well. So he didn't really work downfield as much as you'd like with corners and comebacks and that type of stuff. But you can't really fault him for the system. And I think that's stuff he can work on. I don't think he's going to have like a boom early on in his career, but I think like year 2, year 3, he could come out and be a solid player. I guess we've taken 2 of our players. Like I taken Omar Rogers, you taken Diamie Brown. My third guy, I'm going to just stick with wide receiver because why not? Tamarion Terry. And I know you don't like Tamarion Terry.
No, I like him. I like him. I do like Tamarian Terry. Well, I don't know why you said that. I like him. I mean, Arib has him as a day two pick. I don't have him as a day two pick. That's the only difference that we have. I think he's going to be a great player. So yes, in terms of undervalued players, you can also add Tamarian Terry to that list. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and Tamarion Terry for me, like if I list off my wide receiver list real quickly, like Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, Rashad Bateman, Terrence Marshall. Those are the 5 guys I have that can be like true wide receiver ones, right? Like I think they can come in and be like wide receiver one upside. I don't think Kadarius Toney really has wide receiver one upside. I don't think Rondell Moore does. Talon Wallace maybe, but he's more of like a wide receiver 2 for me. Elijah Moore definitely not. He's more of a gimmicky player. And then Tamarion Terry, like of the 15 guys I've scouted at wide receiver so far, I think he has the most wide receiver 1 potential. Like this guy, the fastest play in football history, not football history, but football period the last 2 years, ran like 23 miles per hour. And that includes like Tyreek Hill and Jerick McKinnon and all like Raheem Mostert, and all those guys. He has the speed, 6'3", 203 pounds, according to ESPN. I like his speed. I like his quickness. I like his ability to run with the ball in his hands. I like his, I don't like his route running, but I think that's stuff he can work on. His blocking, obviously, good deep speed. He's a big play threat. I'm all like, he averaged a crazy amount of yards per catch. And you got to humor me here. Like, take out his last year in college. Like, he was injured the entire time, and that's why his stats look terrible. But if you go back to 2019, man was a baller, burning players left, right, and center. And the biggest problem for me, similar with Diamie Brown, concentration drops. His route running needed work. He doesn't have that suddenness in his route running, release, like all that stuff. And off the field, he seemed to have some sort of weird problem with the FSU coaching staff, which like the FSU coaching staff sucks ass. So like, if you want to have a problem with that, go for that. But that's something he definitely needs to interview with. And I think how he interviews is going to be pretty big, because you obviously don't want a quitter on your team, and you're having stories thrown around that he was a quitter. So you got to see how he interviews. And if he interviews, I think he's a day 2 lock, in my opinion, because he has all the talent. And I think his concentration drops and his route running are really his only flaws as a prospect. And you hit on DK Metcalf when you talked about Diamie Brown and how like both these players have limited route trees, and DK Metcalf still has a limited route tree in the NFL, and he's killing it because Brian Schottenheimer and the coaching staff up there in Seattle, who I was just talking shit about recently, like literally like 10 minutes ago, but they found a way to play to his strengths, and that's what good coaches do. And I think if you do that with Tamarian Terry and Diamie Brown for that matter, you can definitely get some success out of that. But more so Tamarian Terry, like just get the ball in his hands. He's a beast.
Yeah, I think he has that upside. I think he can definitely be a steal. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not as high on Tamarian Terry as you are, but definitely a guy that's definitely a sleeper per se. My sleeper here, I'm gonna go in the offensive line route here. I'm gonna go James Hudson III out of Cincy, University of Cincinnati. For me, I think he's a raw prospect, but I think he has potential to be a really elite, a true elite tackle. I think his blocking is spectacular on the pass blocking side and on the rush blocking side. I think there are some holes in this game. I think obviously I think athleticism can only go so far. He is very athletic. I think he needs to be a little bit leaner in pass protection. I think that's probably there for him. I think also he's 304 pounds, so maybe you want him to gain more weight, maybe get more mass towards like helping protect the pass and protect the run as well. But yeah, I'm high on James Hudson out of Cincy here. He's not like I think he's probably going to be a day 2 pick. I think Arib. Probably like 2nd to 3rd round pick. I think that's probably where
I haven't done a lot of like scouting on him yet.
Yeah,
but I've heard good things about him as well.
He's a zone blocker. I think that's probably where I'd probably lean him towards. A team that's like predicated towards that.
Kyle Shanahan.
It's Kyle Shanahan type of zone rushing attack. I think that's probably that's probably where I have. I think he's a developmental offensive tackle, but I think he has extremely high potential. So for me, I mean, he's probably going to be my second sleeper. I'm a fan of James Hudson. For me, he's my 5th offensive tackle. So.
High. Okay, I haven't scouted him, so I don't know yet. I'm going to stick on the offensive side of the ball, and specifically the offensive line position, and specifically even more the offensive tackle position. I'm going to go with Leon Eichenberg, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame. I don't have my tackle list in front of me. I think I've scouted almost 10 guys, and he's at number 6 for me, I believe, just off the top of my head.
I'm high on him as well. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, what stands out for him is his technique is flawless of all. And I think polar opposite of what you said about James Hudson. And again, I haven't scouted him, so I can't vouch for that myself, but I don't think Liam Eichenberg is like an elite athlete by any means, right? Like, I think he definitely has flaws in that part of his game. But what stood out to me when I was watching him was his technique was just like flawless. Like, this guy, he dealt with these star pass rushers. He dealt with the Alabama pass rushers, the Clemson pass rushers, like those guys, and he dealt with them even like really well. And I think his game against Pittsburgh, where he faced the likes of a guy who I have as a sleeper, I'm going to talk about him later, Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver, another guy who some people have as like I think Breach Report had them as like their number 2 edge. Also out of Pittsburgh. Like his game against Pittsburgh was really eye-opening to me. Like he's not the most athletic guy. He will get beat occasionally with speed, but his technique is really strong. He's great. He's a great run blocker, great pass blocker. Like if you want a technical guy who I think you can plug in and play at that offensive tackle spot, and you don't really have to worry about it, go Liam Eichenberg. I think his foundation is very strong. I don't know how high his ceiling necessarily is, but at the end of the day, if you want an impact starter on the offensive line, I think you can't go wrong with Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame. I just go watch his film if you haven't. Like it's just like it's phenomenal. Like it's a clinic, honestly. I'm all like he gets beat, but he has the ability to bounce back, and he knows how to re-anchor and all that boring offensive lineman stuff. He does it really well. So he's probably my 4th sleeper.
Yeah, so for me, my next sleeper here, I'm going to go in the quarterback route, which is crazy because I think there's a big drop off. I think obviously the quarterbacks we have are Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Mac Jones. Top 5, all 5 going to go in the first round, potentially even top 5 of the draft, could even go top 10. So I think those guys are all locked in first round picks. And after that, Kyle Trask is probably going to go next, and he'll probably be falling 2nd to 3rd round. I think that's probably the 6th guy. But I'm not high on Kyle Trask compared to this guy I'm about to list out. And it's crazy because I didn't look at him until about, I'd say 2 days ago. And I actually got looked into this one because Chris Sims had him as the quarterback 3 of this draft class, which is insane. He had him as a quarterback 3, which is incredibly high. But regardless, quarterback 4, my bad. And I don't know if he's that high for me, but he's my sleeper here, and that's Kellen Monde out of Texas A&M. The dude just his throwing is just elite, Arib. The way he just throws the ball, he's a pure thrower of the ball. He has a rocket armory, showing a lot of like the Dak Prescott type of vibes here, with that late round potential of being an elite quarterback. I'm not going to say Tom Brady yet, but yeah, I think he's a great decision maker as well. I mean, just the only thing I saw from him is that he wants to be right on every play. I think he makes he doesn't take enough risk in this game, but when a guy's obviously open deep, he'll throw it. But I think he's definitely a guy that's under the radar. I would grade him as a day 2 guy, but I think he's either day 2 or day 3. And he only lost 1 game this past year with Texas A&M. He was the Senior Bowl MVP also this past year. On the season, he had 2,000 yards, 19 TDs, and 3 picks. Pretty good season all around. Only lost 1 game in the SEC. I can't complain about that. I mean, I really like this guy, Kellen Monde. I mean, yeah, there are. It is crazy that I'm listing out Kellen Monde, considering he may not go that high, but I'm just like, I think from what I've seen from the tape, I can't even really explain it to you, but the deep ball accuracy is just tremendous. He makes all the throws very well. I think as a pure thrower of the ball, I'll take him over guys like Fields and Lance any day of the week. I think he's just different, man. I like Kellen Monde. I would take him over Trask. I don't know if I'd take him over the remaining top 5 guys that I have, but he's firmly my QB6. I can definitely say that, and I would take him in day 2. And he does have that upside, like Chris Sims says, and he could be the top 3 quarterback from this class if things all go right here. And teams like maybe Denver would be a great place for Kellen Monde, or maybe a San Francisco, or a Dallas that has still hasn't signed Dak Prescott yet. We'll see how that goes. The Bears, but I like what I like. I like this Kellen Monde guy.
Fair enough. I'm still yet to scout him, so I'm not going to give an opinion on a guy I haven't scouted. My last offensive player, and we again, like we said, we've stolen two of our players from each other, but I think probably, I don't even know if he's underrated anymore, but he might be my favorite prospect in this draft class, period of all. And it's Javonte Williams, the running back out of UNC. And if you wanted to make a case for this guy taking him over Najee Harris out of Alabama and Travis Etienne in Clemson, go for it. And I might even be behind you on it, because everything like everything you want in a running back, you get in Javonte Williams. And I urge you, if you are like having like a bad day, just look up Javonte Williams. Don't look up his highlights. Just go watch his straight up game film, because his game film is a highlight reel essentially. Like UNC's running back game, like they have Michael Carter there too, who I have currently as my fourth running back out of 4 that I've scouted. He was the speed there, and the other guy, Javonte Williams, he's the power. And the thing is, he's not even like a true power back. Like when you think power, like a LeGarrette Blount type of player, like no, Javonte Williams has speed to him. And the thing that really stood out to me was like, he's a great tackle. He's not a great tackler. He's a great breaker of tackles. His balance is uncanny. Like it's like an Alvin Kamara, where you can't take this guy down with leg tackles. You like, even if you have 2 guys diving in his legs, like you're not getting him to the ground. He has vision. He has power. He has speed. He can catch the ball pretty well. Honestly, my only knock on him was that his pass blocking wasn't that good. And like, that's something he can easily work on, because he's 5'10". I don't know if I said that. He's 5'10", 220, like 225, I think. He has the size to be a bell cow back, and he averaged a good amount of tackles. Like this guy, he looks like Eddie Lacy chasing the last slice of cheesecake out here on the football field every time he gets the ball. Like he's just looking for the end zone. He has that power. He has that burst. He always falls forward, which is a phrase you like to see in a running back. He has these spin moves. He has his jukes. Like he has everything in the arsenal of a running back. Like he honestly like might be my running back 1 in any other class if Najee Harris wasn't a freak athlete. And he's probably my running back 2 over Travis Etienne, in all honesty. I just like what he is. He's the complete package. He has acceleration. He has everything. He's a patient runner when he needs to be. When he's not patient, he can hit the hole. Like he does everything that you want as a running back. And he's probably my favorite player in this year's draft class, period. In all honesty, at least the one I enjoyed scouting the most.
Yeah, you also took Javonte Williams for me. I also was high on him. He's probably up there for my favorite athletes that I've prospected that I've seen. My sleeper, I'm also going to go in the running back position here. A guy that's definitely under the radar, probably also going to go in the late rounds to end it off. And you've definitely heard of him because we've talked about him one time in this podcast. Not during our mock draft. It was, I believe, in November, end of November. And his name is Jarrett Patterson out of the University of Buffalo. Jarrett Patterson, we all know him because he went viral for having 409 rushing yards in a game and 8 touchdowns. 8 touchdowns.
That's crazy.
Rushing touchdowns and 400 rushing yards in the game. Besides that, I'm a fan of him. Great ball security. I definitely noticed that. I looked at a lot of the game film. Not too shifty, but I think he definitely is like the type of running back that finds any way possible to get the extra yards. Kind of like like a Mark Ingram type of guy. I think that's probably it. He's between the tackles. He's definitely a between the tackles type of running back. Yeah, I mean, I like. I think that's definitely the strengths that I like about him. The weakness that I have about him, obviously, is that he's 5'9", and he's under 200 pounds, and he's like I don't know if he can be a full-time starter either. He's maybe like more of a change of pace type of running back, maybe like a guy like an Austin Eckler. I mean, Austin Eckler was kind of like that to begin with when he was with Melvin Gordon, and now obviously he's evolved himself to become a running back 1 with the Chargers. But we'll see how that turns out. I think he's also not really a third down running back, but I think for where I think he's valued, I'm pretty sure he's valued as a day 3 pick, probably around the 4th round, 5th round, and I'm definitely higher on him. He's definitely a top 5 running back. That being said, the running back class isn't extremely strong, as you mentioned before. I think Javonte Williams, Etienne, Harris, Carter, also out of UNC, and then Jared Patterson. I think those are the top 5 guys. And I mean, Jared Patterson could go anywhere from late 3rd round till 5th. And I think you could definitely get a solid player out of this that has that upside and has that potential to be really special in this league. So and you clearly saw it. I mean, like I said before, you don't see 400 yards in a game. You don't see
Yeah,
8
obviously
touchdowns in
he's
a
got
game.
talent.
Yeah, you can't. Well, no, yeah, exactly. And anyone with eyes can tell you that he has talent if he's pulling up that type of stats. And it's D1 football at the end of the day, and you don't just get that. And yeah, that's my sleeper there on the offensive side.
Yeah, I think we've both done 5 offensive players. Like we stole our players from each other. But my first defensive guy, Kelvin Joseph, the cornerback out of Kentucky, and I just got around to scouting him. I think a couple of days ago. I have him graded as a round 1 corner or more, and I don't know if that's surprising. I have 5 round 1 corners, and I have another guy in the round 1 that I'm going to use as another sleeper later on, probably right after this one. But Kelvin Joseph, what I really liked about him was, I think, honestly, if you want to just watch a highlight tape of him, you can do that. But go watch his game against Alabama, and specifically watch him when he's guarding Devontae Smith, because Devontae Smith, the wide receiver out of Alabama, won the Heisman. I think everyone knows that by now. The way that Kelvin Joseph guarded Devontae Smith, like he's always in his back hip pocket. He's always in perfect position. He gets his eyes around. He got a pick on Devontae Smith actually while he's guarding him on a deep go route in the right corner of the end zone of that game. He has the length. He has the height. He has the eyes. He's 6'1", 192, which is maybe a little bit lighter than what you'd want for a corner. And one of my knocks on him actually is that he doesn't really play a lot of press man on man. So that's just something that you're going to have to deal with. But he plays like around 2 yards, 2+ yards off the line of scrimmage. His man on man coverage is definitely there. If you need a man on man cover corner, just draft Kelvin Joseph and you're going to be happy with it. He has the athleticism. He doesn't really use his hands, so that could be a knock and a positive because he's not going to get called for a lot of fouls for being too handsy. But also, like some guys, like especially like Patrick Surtain, who I have graded as a number 1 corner, he's very handsy. Like his way of winning is pressing you with the line of scrimmage and making sure he has his hands on you like throughout the entire route. That's not how Kelvin Joseph plays. He's way more hands off, and he's just going to be with you sort of the entire time. His high pointing is there. Probably his biggest knock other than his press coverage was his tackling. And also he only started 1 year at Kentucky. So his experience at the cornerback position is definitely, needed. Like he doesn't have the same recognition of when it comes to route recognition and that type of instincts that other players have. Like Patrick Surtain, obviously, looks like a veteran when he's playing the cornerback position, but Kelvin Joseph, definitely an underrated corner for me. And I have him as a day 2 pick probably, but he could probably sneak into day 1.
Yeah, so for me, my first guy is also going to be a guy that's for me, I would take him day 1, but he may go day 2, and and for me, he's also probably the number 1 player in this position, and that's a defensive tackle for me, and that's Davion Nixon out of Iowa, I believe, and I'm high on him mainly because he's produced 5.5 sacks and 13.5 tackles for loss. He plays I think he plays the 3 tech as well. And the main strengths that I see from his game are that he's quick, he's got that leverage, and I mean he's able to immediately shoot the gaps through the offensive lineman. I think like I said, he's just extremely quick, Reeb. At his size too, bro. I mean, it's just insane. I think he's 6'3", Reeb, 305 pounds. Defensive line, 305 pounds, and he's very, very quick, and it's just crazy for a D tackle to be like that quick like him. Obviously he's not going to be like an Aaron Donald or anything like that, but I mean, there's definitely some room for improvement when it comes to him. Obviously, he's not extremely experienced, obviously, with going to a small school like Iowa. But I mean, he needs to he like handling double teams. I guess that's probably a weakness that I saw in his game. I think he also needs to work on stamina, I think, too, because I think you could definitely I definitely saw in some film that Davion Nixon definitely towards the end of games he would just like give up on plays. So maybe some little bit of that work ethic type of issues maybe might be there, but I think the dude is just special. I definitely see him as a day one player, but I think he could definitely go day two. And he'll definitely be picked, I think, in the first 50 picks, maybe even first 40 picks. I think I'm definitely a high on Davion Nixon here. Yeah.
I'm going to go with another corner here, Ahsante Samuel out of FSU. And I'm sure you saw this coming because I've been raving about him for
Yep.
the
Go
last
on.
couple
Yep.
of
Yep.
weeks. Ahsante Samuel, he's 5'10", I believe. He has that, normal weight that you want for a corner. Honestly, I love him. I love everything about him. If you want him to play press, he'll play press. If you want him to play off, he'll play off. If you want to play zone, he'll play zone. He does everything, and he does it really well. He's always in the hip pocket, and he's not a slot corner. I know he's 5'10", so it's smaller, but he's definitely a boundary corner, and he plays very similar to another. I don't know if he made the All-Pro team this year, but Jair Alexander, Denzel Ward, those two guys who are smaller, sub 6 foot corners who play on the boundary and play the boundary really well. That's what you're getting in Ahsante Samuel. He's my number 4 ranked corner in this year's class. He has the athleticism. He has the instincts. His dad, another former NFL corner, Ahsante Samuel Sr., who I believe played for Philly and I want to say Oakland, maybe. Another guy who's a former Pro Bowl corner. And again, he has all the things that I said Patrick Surtain has, that he has that sort of, you can almost say it's like this aura around him. Like he has this maturity about him when he's playing. Like he's never phased. He's never like, you can never beat him essentially. Like he's always on top of things. He knows how to play the cornerback position very well at a highly elite level. My only knocks on him were that he's small and that sometimes occasionally he'd mess up when it came to tracking a deep ball. But other than that, like he has the hands, he has the length, I guess. He's a little bit shorter than you'd like again, but he has all the physical tools to be a really elite corner in my eyes. And if he was a bit bigger, I think people would have him higher, and his height is probably what's going to knock him down. But I really loved Ahsante Samuel Jr. out of FSU.
Yeah, Ahsante Samuel. Everyone knows Ahsante Samuel, the great cornerback that he was in the NFL, and now his son Ahsante Samuel Jr. Definitely a guy like you said, Arib. I think he has that first round potential. If obviously he was taller, but I mean, I think he's definitely a guy to look out for. Another sleeper. I don't know if I've even talked about this guy to you, Arib, but a sleeper that I have is Jordan Smith out of UAB. Jordan Smith is a guy that I looked into probably like I think about a week ago. He's 6'6", 255. I think for him, my thing here is he's an incredibly athletic player. I think he's just extremely agile, quickly alters angle of attack. He's like, I mean, I think he just quickly locates the ball handler, explodes through gaps. I think Jordan Smith's just he's just he's just an specimen, man. The dude's just an insane athlete. My only criticism for him, yeah, is just struggling to get off the block here. Doesn't stack well against the run. Those are some problems with him, but I think he may be a great player for a team that has a 3-4 system. I see Jordan Smith probably being a day 2 guy. 3rd round probably is where I'm looking at Jordan Smith. I could definitely see him falling into day 3 though as well if edge players are definitely going down the board. But I think this dude Jordan Smith can play edge, and he can also play linebacker, Reed, which I think is definitely important here. And I think that type of and the way that he plays, I think he's excellent at both. Yeah, I mean, he can drop back and into coverage, and he's pretty damn good at coverage as well. And out of these edge guys, I think he's probably in my top. He's like probably not. I don't know if he's in my top 10, but he's actually, yeah, he is in my top 10. He's probably in my top 10 edge rushers here, and he would be in my top. He'd be in my top 5 for linebackers. So I mean, either way you look at it, Jordan Smith, I think, is definitely a guy to look out for in this draft, and I could definitely see him going, like I said, in the day 2 range, maybe day 3.
Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard, so I've got to do a lot more research on it. But it's a guy I'm going to add to the list. My number, I guess third defensive sleeper, Richie Grant, the safety out of UCF, and I actually have him as my number 1 safety over Trayvon Moehrig out of TCU, and I love Trayvon Moehrig, and I guess the difference between I think first of all, I don't think Trayvon Moehrig to me plays more of a strong safety, free safety hybrid. Richie Grant is a pure free safety, and I think he's an elite free safety, and his range to me, there's one play, I can't remember who he's playing against, but he starts off on the right hash mark. He reads the quarterback's eyes the entire way. He starts booking it. And like, he's literally like there as the ball is being thrown deep. And he goes from literally the right hash to like almost the left sideline and catches a pick. And that's a play that I haven't seen any other safety make in this class so far. And granted, I've only scouted like 3 of them, but like these safeties, I think Richie Grant gives you an elite free safety. Like, he has that range, and I don't think he has like Earl Thomas range, but he has really great range at the safety position. He has the instincts. He has that route recognition. Like, he knows where he has to be. Tackling and angles, like his angles when he's attacking a ball carriers are very good. Identifying routes, his range, like he does all that very well. I think his tackling for a free safety, rather, like you don't have to be a great tackler as a free safety. Like, you're not in the box doing a lot of tackling, but his tackling is pretty sound. He does have a couple hiccups here and there, but other than that, I think he's very strong. And in that regard, he's not the best tackler. He's not the most athletic. He's kind of a smaller guy, only 6 foot, 194. But I think overall, I like what I saw from him. He could cover a few tight ends here and there if you need him to, but really his strength is sitting back there playing, again, that strong safety, a free safety role, like the Ed Reeds, the Earl Thomases, playing back there, and let him do his thing with his range and his eyes and his instincts, and he will pay dividends. And that's why he's my number 1 safety, because I think he does that very elite. And I think Trayvon Moehrig, I think he's a great player. And he's, again, more of a strong safety. So if you want to separate those two, strong safety and free safety, by all means do that. And Trayvon Moehrig would probably be my number 1 strong safety. But I like what Richie Grant gives you out of UCF.
Yeah, so my next guy here is a linebacker. I probably have him as a top 5, top 4 linebacker in this class. Probably top 5. Jabril Cox out of LSU for me. I mentioned him in the mock draft, and obviously, yeah, they're kind of high in the first round. But I'm starting to like this guy, man. I think he's a very reliable tackler, and I think for me, when I just looked at the Senior Bowl, and his pass coverage is just incredible. Reeb, he's honestly, his zone coverage is incredible. His man coverage is great. Athleticism. It's also outstanding. I think his the position I think that he's best guarding, I think, as a linebacker, he holds up well, I think, against the bigger slot receivers or even tight ends. I think he could be a really good coverage linebacker. I see a very high potential with him. I mean, obviously, I think there's some issues maybe. I think maybe shedding through blocks could be an issue that he could have. Patience, I think, like I said before, that I think that those are issues I think they could definitely teach. But his athleticism is just outstanding, and he's quick, and he has a lot of finesse. So I mean, I think and also I believe he was team captain of LSU, which is also an important thing to note. And I think as a leader, as that linebacker core, I think a guy like Darius Leonard is what I see in Jabril Cox, and having that natural born leadership intangibles. I think that's important to lead a team, and I see that a lot in Jabril Cox. Jabril Cox, I would pick him day one, but I think I'd say he's probably going to be day two, probably second or third round pick, probably late second, early third, and yeah, that's where I stand on Jabril Cox.
Yeah, I mean, obviously leadership, that is the quarterback of the defense, so that matters at the linebacker position. My fourth player, Patrick Jones, the second out of Pittsburgh, who I hinted at before. 6'5", 260 pounds. And honestly, I think I texted you when I was watching him. I said, this guy looks like he's on crack before every single play because his burst and get off is the best in this class. Like he just looks like he looks like a motor. Like he's like a never ending motor. This guy is always going after it. His get off is, like I said, best in the class by maybe even a mile. Maybe Azeez Ojulari, though he's more of like a faster speed rusher. And I think you get some power with Patrick Jones. His leverage is really good in the run game. He plays it really well. And honestly, for me, Patrick Jones, it's all about upside here because like the athlete he is, you're going to get a guy who like people say that, what's his face? Jason Owe, who I hate, by the way, the edge out of Penn State. The people say he has like a great motor and he has that speed. I didn't see that on film, but when I watched Patrick Jones, I saw that plus even more because this guy looks like a freight train coming off the edge. Like every time he's going out there and he's got his dreads and like he's boom, like it's just phenomenal to watch him get off the line. He's a pretty smart run defender, so I think he gives you a pretty solid floor if you want to put him on rushing downs and then help him develop his passing game because he has no pass rush moves at all. And this guy, he tends to get pushed around the pocket or on the edges too much. And he ends up falling a lot. And that's probably because his balance isn't all there because he's just getting off the ground so damn fast. His hands aren't always there. His pad level gets a bit too high sometimes, so he can't get a proper bull rush going. But I think if someone can coach this guy, bro, he has like true like number one edge talent. And I know I've talked about Gregory Rousseau. I don't know if I talked about him on this podcast, but he's a guy who I don't really have that high. I guess he's my number 4 edge probably. And you talk about how he has all the measurables and he has all that, like the strengths and athleticism and all that. And same thing for Patrick Jones, except I think he's probably a bit more refined as a prospect than Gregory Rousseau. And I think he just has a lot of work to do in that sense where like, yeah, he's a bit more refined, but he's not as good of an athlete as Gregory Rousseau, which is why I have him probably as my number 7 edge rusher just off the top of my head. But again, this guy gets off the edge like a freight train and it's just fun to watch him do it. He just needs to clean up his technique a little bit. And I think he can give you a true, like I don't want to say Chandler Jones because a guy who's like a second rounder, third rounder who ended up being a really good player, but he can give you that type of upside as a pass rusher.
Yeah. So for me, that's also a great player that you just mentioned, yeah, Patrick Jones. My next player here, Talanoa Hufanga, safety out of USC. I don't know if I mentioned this player to you. I probably did not. He's my safety number 3. I have Trevon Morgan, Javon Holland higher than him, but Talanoa Hufanga, I mean, this dude is just like, I get a lot of flashbacks to what Jabril Peppers did in college, and probably one of my favorite Colts players of all time, and that's Bob Sanders. And I saw a lot of that in Talanoa Hufanga. Dude's 6'1", weighs 215. The dude's probably the hardest tackler out of all these safeties in this draft class. Maybe even be the hardest hitting player in this draft class. He won Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year as well. He led the Pac-12 in solo tackles and interceptions. He's a great player in coverage as well. Yeah, he had 11 games with double-digit sacks. I think when you saw him play, I thought I saw a lot of impressive plays in the short area of the field. Not really that quick. I think that's probably because of the injuries that he's had throughout his career. Shoulder injuries, collarbone injuries, concussion protocol, all the different injuries that have been there. I think that definitely hurted his draft stock. But I think if he was completely healthy, he'd probably be like a safety, like probably the best safety in this class. Um, he does miss tackles sometimes. But I mean, overall, the dude's just an absolute freight train for me. And Talanoa Hufanga is definitely a name that you got to look out for. Like I said before, he almost looks like he plays like a linebacker position when you watched Hufanga play. And like I said, I see a lot of Jabril Peppers, how he played at Michigan. And like I said again, my guy hard hitting Bob Sanders. I see a lot of that explosive playmaking skills when it comes to Talanoa Hufanga.
Cool. Another guy, I've heard his name before, so another guy I'm adding to the list. My fifth guy, and honestly, I didn't think this guy was underrated until I watched a couple like YouTubers talking, like ranking their edge players, and he just wasn't anywhere on the list, and like in even like top tens. So I guess he is underrated now. Joe Tryon, the edge out of Washington, and
you took mine, so yeah, you can go for
it. Honestly, I love everything about him. He's my number 6 edge, I believe. Love his power. His athleticism is just there, Mo. Like he has that sort of foundation you want from a pass rusher, where like you want your pass rusher to have something like some sort of a floor when it comes to athleticism, to where they can have a good ceiling, at least if you're drafting them early. And I think Joe Tryon's probably a day 2 pick for me, especially like in the second round specifically. I really like, he's probably has the best inside swim move in the entire class. Like this he only really has one move. It's that inside swim move where he'll duck his shoulder around the tackle and boom, he's inside, slipping past the guard and sacking your quarterback. That's his best move. And you can tell he's definitely worked on it because he's really he's really good at it. His bend is there, like all that stuff, his quickness, his react athleticism was good. Sets the edge pretty good in the run game, had a high motor and hustle. Like he never took any plays off, like what you said for Davion Nixon. Like Joe Tryon, he's not about that life. He has a good floor. If you wanted to put him inside on pass rushing downs, or put him on the field rather on pass rushing downs, do it. He'll help him develop his pass rushing moves. And he did not play in 2020, I believe. So hopefully he's out there developing his pass rushing moves. Because like I said, his swim move, really good. Everything else, not so good. His inconsistencies were there, especially with his pass rushing moves, his get off the line. Like he does not have the explosive get off that Patrick Jones definitely had. And he showed it sometimes, but like very inconsistently. His pad level again, and that's something I saw with almost all these pass rushers. Like their pad level was very inconsistent, and you need to have a lower pad level if you want to transfer your speed into power into a bull rush, and that's just something he needs to work on. Overall, and something I also talked about Patrick Jones here in my notes, he gets a bit too wide on his pass rushing moves, and he pretty much gets pushed out of the play because you want to go through your tackle, and he was going around the tackle. Same thing with Patrick Jones. That's something that needs to clear up, and that's something that they can get if they work on their pad level and developing more of a bull rushing game, where instead of trying to go around, you can just go through the tackle. But yeah, Joe Tryon, I really loved everything I saw from him on film. And that's pretty obvious, seeing as I have him as my 6th ranked edge in this class. And just for reference, I've scouted 11 guys so far, and Patrick Jones is at 11. And yeah, that finishes out my top 10 prospects, underrated prospects.
Yeah. Like I said before, like you had Joe Tryon. Joe Tryon, I think he has potential to be going late first round, probably early second round. I mean, he's probably good in he's probably 4-3, right, Reed?
Yeah, he's more of a 4-3 defensive
4-3 guy, and he's great man coverage. I mean, I like Joe Tryon. Since you took Joe Tryon, I'll add another player to this list. I'll add Jamin Davis out of Kentucky.
Also on my list.
Yeah, Jamin Davis. That dude's also great. I mean, I believe he's maybe gonna go like day 2, day 3.
He's a day 1 I think he can go late day one. He's my number 4 linebacker.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, I have him. I'm actually higher on him than normal. I have him day one. I would like to see him go day one. I'm higher on him than I am on Jabril Cox, but yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that he could potentially fall. Great range. He's a great tackler as well. Great size for the position.
He's huge, Amal. He's 6'4", 235.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
This guy is like a field general.
Exactly. I mean, the dude's a monster. I think he had 100 tackles, I think, on his last year. 1.5 sacks, 3 picks. And I love the one stat that the one game that really stood out to me was his performance against Tennessee, where he had a 75-yard pick 6 as well in that game. But my overall the weaknesses, I guess, with him is shedding blocks. Same as
I had that as well.
Yeah, I think that's
just getting through traffic for me was probably his biggest flaw. Like he overruns sometimes, like he overruns the running back. But yeah, I really like what I saw from Jamin Davis. He had good athleticism. Like he had IQ as well. Like some people like knock Micah Parsons because he has like no clue what the fuck he's doing at the linebacker position. Like he's just running around. Like Jamin Davis, he has a game plan. Like he's definitely has that linebacker. Like you can tell he's played linebacker for a long time. Like he knows what he's doing.
Definitely. Yeah. And I think Jamin Davis, best fit for him. I like New Orleans as a good fit. I can definitely see that system definitely working out for Jamin Davis. But yeah, Reeb, we've covered our top 10 prospects, and on the offensive side and defensive side put together, we came up with 10 prospects that are definitely on our radar, I should say, and they should be on other teams' radar when it comes to these picks, because that's what we believe. Sleeper players that have that high potential and high upside with the right coaching could definitely become an elite player on the next level. So yeah, man, that's all I gotta say here.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have a pretty good list of players here, pretty diverse. I liked what we said about these players, obviously, which is why we talked about them. Yeah, that is it for me, in all honesty. Just hyped for some more draft talk, and especially in the next few podcasts, we're going to be coming out with a mock draft pretty soon, either next week or the week after, our mock draft 2.0. And yeah, stay on the lookout for that. Thanks for listening. Peace out and bye.